Welcome back to a new video. In today's video, we're going to take a look at how we can create cool page transitions in React, and we're going to use NextJS. And firstly, as usual, I'm going to show you the Figma file and how we can think about these things. So I have this design here, which was some ideas that I had for this video. And the first idea that I had was having this slideshow or infinite slideshow thing, where we have a gym apparel brand. This is all fictional, where you could select your style and you could swipe across and click on each item. And when you click on an item, it starts having this transition. So all the images on the sides fade out and translate, as well as scaling up the middle image. And once we go to full screen, we reveal the new page title and the text. So essentially what we have is these two screens here. These two. So we somehow need to figure out going from this page to this page. So that was my idea for this. I thought this original design was a little bit too minimal. So I went with this black design instead. And yeah, I think this looks nice. And we just scaled up the images. So it's going to be the same thing, but just a little bit different vibe, essentially. So let's start looking at the code and how it's structured. It's a very simple project. We're in Next.js, so we have the new app directory. We have a components folder with only two components, the image grid, which is the first screen, and then the hero, which is the thing that we want to animate to or transition to. And those live in here. So page.js is our home page. And this is only containing the image grid at the moment. And then we have a landing page, which only includes the hero. So if we look in the browser, here we're on the landing page. But if we go to the home page, we have to go from this page to this page with a transition. And we're going to use GSAP for this. And I'm going to show you some cool techniques of doing this. This could be anywhere in your app. You can use this technique only for a specific part of your app, or you could have it for multiple parts. But this technique works best, I think, with if you have a start state and then an end state. So we're going to look at that in a bit. Okay, so let's start coding this thing. And the first thing we're going to do is in our homepage, which is the page here, we're going to set up some stuff that is going to help us achieve this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say use client, because we're going to import some hooks from React. We're going to import use layout effects, and we're going to import use state. We're also going to import use router from before it was next/router, but now it's navigation. So we have that, and then we're going to import GSAP. And then in our component, we can start setting up some stuff. Let's just first initialize our router. So we can say const router equals use router. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a timeline in our home page, which is going to control when we transition to the new page. So we're going to set that up in a use state. So timeline and set the timeline. It's going to equal use state and null. So this is going to be a GSAP timeline in a bit. And then we're going to say use layout effect. And this is going to run just on load, so empty dependency array. And then we're going to set up a context. If you don't know what this GSAP context is, I already covered this in my first or second video. It's a 2-part series, so we go over what this is. And inside the context, we're going to create the timeline. So gsap.timeline. And we're going to open this up. We're going to say paused true for now. And after creating the timeline here, we're going to say set timeline and set that to the GSAP timeline. So this timeline is now stored in timeline here. And the last thing we need to do is with the context, we're also going to say return context.revert. So this is just cleaning up all our animation code that's inside the context. And then the timeline that we set up, we're going to pass that as a prop to our image grid. So we're going to pass a prop called timeline, which is now the parent timeline here. So from our homepage into our image grid, we are passing in timeline. And we're going to use this timeline in here to add stuff from here on this timeline. Because that way, later we can say, once this timeline is finished, then we want to change route or change page. And I'm going to show that a little bit later. Okay, so we have our timeline in the image grid, and then we can start animating stuff in here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create some refs for everything we need to animate. So we first need to import that. So we use ref from React. And the things we need to animate is we need to animate the image, of course, the middle one, but also the 2 images on the sides, the title in the middle, and also the wrapper itself in the middle image, because we're going to do a zoom effect. So let's set that up. So we're going to say const center image ref equals use ref null. We're going to say const left image ref equals use ref null. And the same for the right one. We're going to do center image wrapper ref equals use ref null. This should probably be here. And the last thing we need is center image title ref. And it's important as well to try to make these names as clear as possible, so it's easier to maintain if you do a lot of animations. Okay, so let's start adding these to the elements. So image wrapper ref. It's this one. So we're going to say ref here. An image. We have the image here. So this is the wrapper, and inside there's an image. And the left image, which is the first one here. And then the right image, which is the last one. And then a title for the middle image, which is this one. Okay, so we have all our refs, which is everything we need in terms of what we're going to animate. Now we can start setting up the animations. And I always create a new file for this, so animations.js, because I don't want to start having a use effect here and start adding all these like GSAP stuff in here because it can get so big. So keep your components clean and just make a new file. So in the animations, we're going to import GSAP, of course. And then let's think about what we need to do. We need to run the animation in a use effect. And the dependency we're going to look out for is the timeline that we're passing in. So inside here, we're going to chain stuff to the timeline for the home page. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, if timeline exists, then we're going to do or add something to it with the add function from GSAP. And I'm going to set this up first, and then we're going to write the code later. So first, we need to set some initial states. And in there, we want to pass in the center image ref.current. So this is going to make sense in a little bit. And then we want to add a new thing, and we want to move side images. And for that, we need to pass in our left image .current and right image ref.current. And then we want to add scale center image. So you can see now this is happening in steps, right? So first we set initial states, and then we move the side images, then we scale the center image. Of course, we're going to code all these in a second, but this is the good thing about GSAP, having these timelines where you can chain stuff. But for the center image, we're going to pass in the center image wrapper.current and also the center image .current. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to move up title. And then we're going to pass in center title ref.current. Okay, so we have all these functions that we want to run. Now I'm going to explain why we did this. So I'm just going to copy all these and start setting them up here. In the animations file, we want to export these as functions. So set initial state is going to be a function. Export const. And then we passed in this. And we're going to do that for all of these. So export const side images. And here we passed in the left image ref and right image ref. And then scale center image. And we passed in center image wrapper ref. Wasn't it? Yeah. And then center image ref. And the last one, move up title. Export const, move up title. And that's just the center image title ref. I keep forgetting what they're called. Okay. Nice. So we have everything here. And for now, I'm just going to set up a timeline in each. So we're going to use GSAP here to say, so if I just do this for each of these, I'm going to say const TL equals gsap.timeline. And then we're just going to return the timeline. Return timeline. So for each of these functions, we're just returning a GSAP timeline, which then we can import here. So we can import set initial state. Yeah, I have them here. Move side images, scale center image, and move up title from animations. So now these are referencing our functions in here, which is just a timeline for each. And we're going to fill these with animations in a little bit. But first, we want to set the initial state. And the reason we have this function is because GSAP needs to keep track of all your transforms because they behave differently in every browser and is, a lot of weird behavior, and it can lead to unexpected bugs. So because we want to scale the image and have this zooming effect, we have to tell GSAP what's the initial state of this image. So in here, we're just going to say gsap.set and then center image ref. And that's going to be scale 1.5. So I'm going to show you what I mean here. So you see now we have scale of 1.5. So actually, if I scale of 1.3 to 1. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go from here, and as we go to the new page, we're going to zoom the image out like this, and also scale up the container. So that's the reason we set this here. Okay, so let's start one by one by going through the functions here. So to move the side images, it's pretty easy. We're going to say tl.to. We can say left images ref first. Left image ref. And this is going to go x% of -50, so to the left. And we're going to have a scale of 2 because we want to scale them as they're going out as well. And we want to set the transform origin to center right because we want this to scale from the right side out to the left, if that makes sense. And then we're going to have a 2, and then the right image ref is going to be x%, x%50 instead. Scale of 2, transform origin of center and left, because we wanted to grow from the left to the right side. Kind of confusing with transform origin sometimes, but that's how it works. Okay, so to make this play, we have to go back to our homepage and turn off pause true. So you see there what's happening. They're scaling and moving out. And we want these to happen at the same time. So we're going to, as the last parameter here, we're going to have a 0, which means this will happen at the start, so at 0 seconds. And because we only have 2 here, they're going to happen at the same time. So if we take a look now, yeah, they're scaling up. They're going pretty quickly because the default duration of GSAP is 0.5 seconds, so half a second. And instead of putting duration 2 here and putting it down here, because we're going to have a lot of animations here, instead of doing it all the time, at the top of the file, we can say gsap.defaults, and this is only for this file. So if you know all your animations share, for example, easing or something, or duration, you can set it up here. So we're going to say for all the to's and froms and everything in this file, the duration is going to be 2, and the ease is going to be expo.out. Sorry, expo.in-out. So let's take a look now. Yeah, so now you see they have more of a smooth transition. Cool, so that's the side images. And they live independently from this one because this is position absolute in the middle. So let's go to the next one, scale center image. So let's start chaining to this timeline again, TL.2. And then first we're going to do the center image wrapper. The thing we're going to do is we're going to change the width and height of this. So we're going to say width. So if we do, we're going to go to 100% width and also to height. If we do 50 and then 100 viewport height. So this is our final state, or not the final state for the image, but the final state for the wrapper is it has to fill the screen. And I'm going to say usually you shouldn't use width or height if you don't absolutely have to. In this case, there's really not an easy way to use transforms. So we have to use width and height. But if you can, always use scale X, scale, translate Y, and all of that instead of using width, height, top, and stuff like that, because it causes a repaint in the browser. Okay, so 100% width and 100 viewport heights. Okay, cool. So we have that. It happens one after the other, and we're going to tweak that a little bit later. And then the last thing we're going to do to get that zooming effect that I talked about, so we're going to target the center image ref. And then we're going to do scale of 1. And we want this to happen at the same time. So we're going to add a 0 here. So if you see now, the image zooms out as the box gets bigger. And it creates this really nice, like zooming effect. And it just makes the animation a little bit better, in my opinion. Okay, that's it for the image. Now, the last thing we need to do is just move up the title. And this title is, I already set this up in a markup. I have the H2 itself, this text, and a wrapper around it, which has overflow hidden. So you see here, if I move the H2 outside of this, if I say transform and then translate Y, if I start moving this up or down, there's a mask on the parent. So yeah, we just need to move the title inside itself. And then we just say tl.to, and then center image title ref, kind of long word. Or actually, because we only want to do one thing here, we don't have to like chain stuff like we do here. We can actually remove the timeline, and we can just return a GSAP.to instead, and then target the center image title ref. And we're going to say the Y% is going to go to a -100. So Y% is relative to the element itself. So this will move the title up 100% of its own height. So if we see now, cool. So now we have all the animations ready for this part. Now we just need to make them look as it's look like it's one animation. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our image grid here, and in these add methods, just like we did here, where we say we want this to start at the same time as this by adding this 0, we can do the same thing here because we're returning timelines for each of the timelines. We can add this position parameter. So what do we want to happen at the same time? We want the initial states to just run first, and then this will happen pretty much instantly because this is a GSAP.set. So it's not really a duration. It just sets the styling straight away. And then this will happen. And at the moment, this happens after this. So if we do a string here, and we say, I don't know what you call this in English, but this sign, this will now happen at the same time as the last one, which means it will happen at the same time as this one. So now the image zooms up at the same time as the images on the left side scales up. And then if we do the same thing for the title, add a string here, this will now happen at the same time as this, which again will happen at the same time as this. So they all should link up now. Nice. So that is the first animation done, really. So you can see now how we went from this grid view to matching the last part here. So we're at this stage now. And now we want to start revealing the new title and the new text. And the way we're going to do that is by adding something in the page here now. So now we're going to do the actual page transition. So if I say pause true again, because we don't want the animation to run before we click this image, I'm going to say in the image grid, because we passed this timeline, I'm going to find, I'm going to find the center image. It's this one. I'm going to add an on click. And because we get the timeline as a prop here, we can say when we click on that image, we're going to play the timeline. So now as I click, we play the animation, but we don't go to a new page yet. And this is the thing we want to do. So in this tutorial, this is obviously static, so we know which page we want to go to, but this could be dynamic. You could get like a href from here as you click or something and go to that page. But what we want to do in the homepage now, we want to have a onComplete. So I'm just going to show what this is doing. This onComplete comes from GSAP. So I'm going to say, once this timeline is complete, we're going to console log finished animation. So if we take a look now, you see a logged finished animation. And that's when we want to do the transition to the new page. So instead of logging just finished animation, we're going to push the new page to the router. So we're going to say router.push. And where do we want to go? We want to go to the landing page. So we're going to do /landing. So let's take a look again. And look at the URL here once the animation is finished. So there we have the new page, the landing. So now we just need to link these up because we don't want it to have this abrupt change. So if we go to the hero now, what do we want to do? We want to reveal the title, and we also want to reveal the text. And I did the same trick as here by having a container and then masking the title and then just moving the title up and down inside the mask. So I'm going to do the same thing here. If I go into the CSS for the hero, we can see I already set this up. So if I just move the title down, see if I do it 50. We just mask the title. So initially we want it to be here, so it's not visible. And then we're going to move it up again. And I also did this for each line. And you can use a library for this to like split the lines and stuff. But here I just did it by myself because it was not a lot of work. So I have this paragraph tag with all the text. And inside I have a span for each line. And the first span is what is having this overflow hidden. And then inside I have the span with the actual text. And we can do the same thing here. Transform, translate Y, and there you can see already we can reveal the text. So we're going to do the same thing for each of these lines. So we're going to add this transform, just hiding everything. And the last thing I have, because we have some text here, because it's quite a bright image, I needed to add a overlay. So I have an overlay here. And if I just set that to opacity 0, now what we will get if we go back, now we change the page and it looks like one seamless transition. So now we're ready to animate the hero. So let's go in here and we'll do the same thing. We're going to create an animations file, animations.js. We are going to import use effects from React. We're also going to import use ref, and we're just going to set up the refs first like we did. So const overlay ref. equals use ref null, and then title ref, and then text refs. So we're gonna store all the lines in one ref. So each one of these in one ref, because we don't have to say line 1, line 2, and so on. We can store each of them in here. Actually, we need to have an array instead. So we're gonna push each line inside this array here. Okay, so let's just set this up. Here's the overlay and the title. And we want to target the actual title element or the text, because that's where we're gonna move. And then for each of the text, so we have a span wrapping each line, and then inside we have a span for the text. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say, I'm gonna do this for each one, like that. We're gonna say ref equals, and then we're gonna say, this is the text that we get back from the element. We're gonna say text refs dot current, and then inside we're gonna push the text. So the text references this element, and then for the ref that we set up, we just pushing each of these elements inside this array. Okay, and then we are gonna start animating. So let's set up the use effect first, maybe. And that's gonna have an empty dependency array. And in here, what we want to do is reveal the title, reveal the text, and fade in the overlay. And because we don't need a timeline for this, like we want all of them to happen at the same time, we can just set up some functions like we did. So we're going to say title animation. We want to pass in title ref.current and text animation. We want to pass in text refs.current and then fade in overlay, be overlay ref.current. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm just doing this before because I know we're going to import it. So import this and this and this from animations. And then we can just start adding these in here. So we can say export const equals. So here we have the title ref. Here we have the text refs. And here we have the overlay ref. And then we need to import GSAP here. Like that. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to set up some defaults for this file. We want the duration to be 2 seconds. And we want the ease to be expo.out. So this will run for, or be the same for each of these GSAPs that we're going to set up. Okay, so we don't need a timeline in any of these. We're just going to return gsap.to and then title ref. It's going to go back to y0 because remember we moved it down. And we're going to override this duration to have 2.5 because it's a pretty big element. And compared to these, it looks better if this takes a little bit longer. So that's why we're overriding that. So let's just check that out first. Yeah, so we also need to say use client here. And then title animation is not a function. Yeah, we just need to save. Yeah, so you see now when I'm on the landing page, this just reveals up. And that's everything you need for that one. Then we're going to do the same thing here. So for each of the text refs, we're going to do y of 0. And if we see now, each line comes up, and we're going to stagger these to make it a little bit nicer. So we're going to say stagger each line by 0.2 seconds. And that gives it a really nice animation stagger. And then the last thing is we just need the overlay. So GSAP.to overlay ref. And then that's going to be opacity 1. You see now the text is more readable because we're also fading in the opacity. So that was it for the hero. Really simple and good animation in my opinion, or effective. And the good thing is, if people land on this page by itself, you also have a nice intro animation here. But if we go back now and click, they are a seamless transition. So that was the video. And I think this technique is really cool. You can be very creative with this. And yeah, I just really like this effect. And if you have any questions about the video or anything else, please let me know. I would also highly appreciate if you like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I will try my best to come up with unique videos that cover animation and how we can incorporate animation in our projects. So yeah, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next one.